raise your right hand and repeat after me. I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear.
I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear.
That I will faithfully execute.
That I will faithfully execute.
The office of President of the United States.
The office of President of the United States.
We have been given a gift by God today to usher in a new dynasty.
Now you get RFK Jr.
Don't you want a president who's going to make America healthy again?
You get Tulsi Gabbard.
Putting our country in a continual state of war.
You get Elon Musk and you get J.D. Vance.
A hell of a way to start the next 4 years.
The right-wing Avenger.
We have an army of digital soldiers.
Department of Defense under Donald Trump will achieve peace through strength.
Shut down the FBI Hoover building on day one.
Rescission of 78 Biden-era executive actions, executive orders, presidential memoranda, and others.
The golden age of America has most definitely begun.
Begin preparing the 30,000-person migrant facility at Guantanamo Bay.
They're getting the dirtbags off these streets.
There's one guy who can fix this shit, and it's Donald Trump.
What's storm, Mr. President?
You'll find out.
Shadows whispered in the wires, hidden hands behind the throne, built their kingdom out of silence, chained the world they thought they owned. Silent codes and stolen stories, truth was buried out of sight, but in the quiet hearts were beating, waiting for the spark of light. They thought we'd never see the masks behind the screen, but the cracks began to bleed, and we began to dream. From the dark to light we're rising, breaking chains, the veil dividing, truth awaken, flames igniting, the old guard falling, freedom climbing, dark to light, the dawn's arriving. We were lost but now unblinding, every whisper, every fighting, all converging, dark to light. We were ghosts inside their system, digital soldiers, quiet storms, turned the weapons of deception into signals to transform. Every lie became a beacon, every secret fed the flame. We're the chorus of the voiceless, calling out their hidden name. They thought we'd never know, but rivers find their flow, and seeds they tried to sow have grown and overflow. From the dark to light we're rising, breaking chains, the veil dividing, truth awaken, flames igniting, the old guard falling, freedom climbing, dark to light, the dawn's arriving. We were lost but now unblinding, every whisper, every fighting, all converging, dark to light. Dark to light. No more kings behind the curtain, no more pawns inside their game. We are fire, we are certain we'll erase their hidden name. Every tower built on lies will crumble, every shadow forced to see the sun. We are many, we won't stumble, we are rising, we've begun. From the dark to light we're rising, breaking chains, the veil dividing, truth awaken, flames igniting, the old guard falling, freedom climbing, dark to light, the dawn's arriving. We were lost but now unblinding, every whisper, every fighting, all converging, dark to light. Dark to light.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. My name is Josh, and welcome to the Repill Project's Daily Dose, live with you Monday through Friday. I hope everybody is doing well out there and having a great Thursday. This second or third week of April 2026. What an amazing time to be alive. And if you didn't know, when I say good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world, I got that from Coast to Coast AM. I'm a long-time listener to Coast AM. And tonight, 2 a.m. my time, so 3 a.m. Eastern, 1 a.m. Pacific, or 12 a.m. Pacific, I will be on Coast AM. And so I'll be talking about the modern occultism, the kind of paradigm of modern occultism, what it is, why it is, and what it really did to affect our social and cultural world that we live in. So if you want to listen to that, that is going to be on Coast to Coast AM and all their channels on AM radio tonight. It's going to be a banger. I'm excited about this one. This is a topic that I'm very fluent in. I understand very, very well, and very excited to talk to George Norrie about. So looking forward to that. Hope you guys can join me right after this show. So I got a triple header tonight. So we're doing the Daily Dose now, and then we go to the OG show right after this. So that's at 11 p.m. Eastern time, OG show, Overwatching the Guardian. And I think that Alpha and I are going to cover a little bit of the occult esoteric topic, but primarily we're going to be talking about the news, what's going on in the news cycle. So not more of a fringy conspiracy-related show, more of a kind of an extension on to DEFCON 0. And then, obviously, then right after that, I go to Coast AM. So right now, the show tonight is named The Dark Delight Show. And that is because we are moving into this era of dark delight. We are moving things from the darkness, from the depths of evil to where they were, out into the light to be absolutely purified. And this means information. This means declass. This means exposing the covert ops, which you and I have been doing for some time here on this channel. The various different influence operations, psychological operations and acts that are going on out there. And absolutely they are going on out there. And so the reason tonight's show is called this is because over the course of the next, I would say, 2 weeks, things are really going to pick up. Todd Blanche said it just a few days ago. He said, now that I'm in charge, things are going to accelerate very, very fast. And John Solomon reiterated this week as well, that now that Todd Blanche is in place, things are going to accelerate, which gives us the indication that Pam Bondi, the one that I didn't like, never liked, didn't want in the first place, was the one holding up these investigations. And John Solomon went out there and clearly stated that it was probably because Pam Bondi does not understand the legal frameworks behind RICO and ongoing criminal conspiracies, or she just didn't understand the whole deep state aspect of things. But Todd Blanche absolutely does understand it. Now, I'm not a big fan of Todd Blanche either, but Todd Blanche does understand it because he was Trump's lawyer through all of this. And let me just look at what we have here. We have Deb Perry Jordan, a MAGA movement in the house and around the world. Oh, absolutely. Kimba 5K. Please don't forget to hit that like button. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, absolutely. Trump finally talking about the missing and dead scientists. Yes. And he named one that I've been pushing to get out into the mainstream, and that is Amy Eskridge. And so we're going to talk about that here towards the end of the show. UFOs equal demonic spirit. They let it keep praying louder than evil. I disagree with that, Deb. That's just my thoughts. We all have our own opinions on things, and I respect yours. But I'm telling you, they're not demonic. It's not demonic. I'm not saying that they're not all demonic. There could be some demonic, but I don't think that the UFO phenomena is demonic. And how about this? Throughout the history of the good book, the last 6,000 years of history, any occurrence that you've heard of demons, when did they ever have technology like orbs that can fly around and be anti-gravity and take people up into space? The only time that I heard about that in the Bible is with Ezekiel, is with Enoch, and those were angels. Just putting that out there. All right. And this was interesting. This was the White House photographer that took Donald Trump's pictures last term that Donald Trump is in office. And listen to what he says here. I love this.
As a fellow human being, I'd like to know how you weather the storm.
calmly looked at me and he said, "I am the storm." Even then,
I am the storm. Where have we heard that before? And we are about to understand what that truly means. Donald Trump has absolutely weathered the storm over the last decade, and now he gets to become the storm. A big shout out to Bear1007, $100 Rumble rant. Man, huge. Josh deserves more. Some of the best intel. Godspeed, brother. Hanging around before I started in 63. My parents woke me up after JFK. More popcorn. It's really getting good. Patriots. And it cut off after that. But Patriots at the front and center is what I would say. Absolutely. So Donald Trump is definitely preparing for something. We're going to see this with a few different indications that he gave today. We're going to go over kind of what's happening nationally, what's happening in Congress. Obviously, we have Swalwell, we have Gonzalez that are out. We have McCormick next week that's most likely going to resign. We have Gallegos that's under fire right now by Anna Paula Luma. And Anna Paula Luma, almost like she is working for Donald Trump, like we've been saying. I think I'm back. Am I back? Give me a thumbs up if I'm back. What the hell? They knew I was about to lay some freaking bombs down. Give me a thumbs up if I'm back. I got good connection. It all says I'm connected here. So give me a thumbs up if meow back. Yes, frozen just for a second. All right, 5 5s. Okay, we're back. All right. Listen to what Tulsi Gabbard, DNI Tulsi Gabbard, said today. Listen to this.
It is always the right time to expose the truth to the American people about the deep state tactics that have been used time and time again, fundamentally to undermine the foundational principles of our republic, and in so many cases to undermine the decisions that the American people make when they cast their votes in our elections to decide who they want to lead our country. And so the documents that we released really pointed to the fact that the 2019 impeachment occurred because there were members of the intelligence community working directly with House Democrats, specifically Adam Schiff, who's on the House Intelligence Committee at the time, concocting this narrative, weaponizing the whistleblower process, lying and abusing their power, all to create this manufactured basis that Nancy Pelosi then used to drive this impeachment against Donald Trump in 2019. I'll hit the high points on these documents. There are details and hundreds of pages of transcripts that we released in conjunction with House Intel Chairman Rick Crawford. But the bottom line is this. Number one, the whistleblower, so-called whistleblower who came forward, presented no evidence and no first-hand knowledge. This is a person who had heard about a conversation that President Trump had with Zelensky, then went straight to Adam Schiff on the House Intelligence Committee. And this is where they came up with this false narrative. And this so-called whistleblower then went and filed a complaint with the intelligence community Inspector General. The other witness, so-called witness to this, is somebody who also had zero first-hand knowledge and presented zero evidence, someone who was also a co-author of the 2017 Russia hoax intelligence community assessment that President Obama had ordered be created in conjunction with John Brennan and James Clapper at the time. Again, no first-hand knowledge or evidence, and someone who said that even after reading the transcript, he didn't really see the issue there until the whistleblower had explained it to him. And lastly, the Inspector General himself, and this is really such a violation of public trust and the responsibility that we expect all of our inspectors generals to have, in that he didn't conduct a full investigation. He didn't even ask to see the transcript of the phone call between President Trump and Zelensky, and he admitted to Congress that he did not have any evidence that he was relying on. He had made a criminal referral to the Department of Justice based on this so-called whistleblower's complaint. Department of Justice came back and said there's nothing here. This inspector general then went to Congress anyway and presented to them. All of this coming down to the bottom line of which this was a partisan political attempt once again to undermine the will of the American people.
Wow. I mean, not like you haven't heard that story before, because that's exactly the story that everybody, all the good Anons and patriots were telling you, including myself, when it was happening. When it was, remember the one thing that Schiff talked about, that he was so angered at the president about what he talked about, it was, President Zelensky, you have the server, Burisma, CrowdStrike. I'd like to have my DOJ take a look at that. You remember that? I remember that. And why were they so scared about that CrowdStrike server? Well, you got to understand what that CrowdStrike server was and how it fits in to all of this. And let me see if I can find a specific post, because it leads into John Brennan and why this is so interesting. Let me see if I can find this. I was actually looking at it earlier today. And actually, the best way to do this is just go like this and go. There it is. There's one. There it is. Okay. Post 3990. And people are like, oh my God, a Q-tard. The Q boards are freaking legit now that we're talking about this, people. People are like, oh my God, Q. Yeah, they're real. Look, we were talking about this back in 2020, April 28th, 2020, people. Listen to this. FBI chain of command mid-year investigation, HRC email. Well, isn't that interesting? That's what's going on right now. FBI chain of command, Pfizer, Russia, POTUS, Flynn, Stone, Papadopoulos, Manafort, CIA bridge, Brennan, Intel asset, Ukraine link. What does it say here? FBI chain of command, DNC hack, CIA bridge, Ukraine, CrowdStrike, Brennan. Right there. Now, fit this all in together. Go back to 2016. Tulsi Gabbard, at the beginning of the Trump administration back in March of last year, declassified an email document. The email was from June 26, 2016. And it was from Lenny Bernardo to another member of the Open Society Foundation, owned by George Soros. And it said that Julianne Smith, who was the foreign policy advisor for the Clinton campaign, had contacted him and said that HRC had given him a green light to go ahead with a Russia smear campaign against President Trump, or against then candidate Trump. Then Lenny Bernardo goes on to state that we don't have any information at this moment, but we'll use our sources, Threat Connect and CrowdStrike, to produce them. What does this say? DNC hack. Remember the DNC hack, CIA bridge, Ukraine, CrowdStrike, Brennan? Think about what they're talking about here. There was a CrowdStrike, which is a vendor, IT vendor for the DNC, that had a server in Burisma. The Burisma Oil Company, yes, the same oil company that Hunter Biden, Devin Archer, John Kerry, SUBSTACK were all board members on at the same time they were board members on, that was operating through the 2016 election. And this says, what about the DNC hack? Seth Rich, everything like that. We can go back one. You even go up here, and it'll say... You got to go back up here, go like this. Right here. 4017. And I'll move this over just so everybody can see it a little bit better. Was the DNC hacked by Russia? CIA Brennan Force, Seth Rich internal DL hand-to-hand pass the U.S., CrowdStrike code insert. If FBI chain of command was corrupt, what other investigations were corrupted? How did they provide cover for? How back far did it go? In other words, this CrowdStrike server was utilized as a mechanism for the CIA to basically spoof Russian hacks on the DNC and so forth. Think about that. As well as to help penetrate the 2016 election. So what we're talking about here is some real shit. Now, what Trump was talking about with that server is he wanted to take possession of it. Taking possession of that server basically would have taken down the deep state back in 2019 if Zelensky had turned it over. What he didn't realize is Zelensky was one of those deep state operatives operating in Ukraine. Well, isn't that interesting? Now, John Solomon today. Let's listen to what he has to say, because this goes back to another Q reference.
I think.
Let me pull this up.
Well, first, I think the president will be taking some action in the next couple of weeks to create, I think we could give it a code name. The FBI liked code names when they went after the president. I like a code name. I think I would call this Operation Hypersonic Clarity. I think what will happen is, these documents, it took me 8 months to get these documents out of ODNI. And I want to thank Director Gabbard for having the courage to fight with the deep state to get them out. But it shouldn't take 8 months in a administration that's committed to getting this information out to do it. I think the president's going to create a process to get a mass avalanche of what we need to know, what truths we were denied the last 10 years out. It also will benefit the prosecutors in Florida who can get tied up with the deep state or procedures like SEPA, State Secrets Act hearings, which can tie you down for months. Get everything declassified quickly. Transparency is the first shot of the cannon. Then I think you'll see the decisions made by the end of this month on Brennan. It sounds like that's where they're headed towards there. And then Comey maybe in May, and then some others after that. If you're going to get a grand conspiracy case, you got to start. We all need to think about what we learned when we watched the mob movies, right? The Godfather or other great mob movies. The FBI and the IRS, they never get the mobster unless they flip someone high up in the family, right? The capo, the turncoat, when they got, and I think you have to look at this Democrat/intelligence cabal as a organized crime organization. That's what a conspiracy case usually is. You're gonna have to flip someone big, someone that knows what went up above them and down them, or her, maybe for that matter. So somewhere there'll have to be a major person that flips. The Sammy the Bull, when Sammy the Bull turned on Gambino family, the Gambino family went down. They're gonna have to do that. So these things are happening. What you're seeing is the deep state and the Democrats know that they are impotent in Washington right now. They can't get anything done, so they're using the state systems to continue that lawfare. That's what John Eastman's getting punished for. There's going to be a trial in Wisconsin soon of a very respected judge, Jim Trupis, for something that probably is not even a state matter.
Okay. What did John Solomon say? He said that someone big is going to have to fall. And who are the two people that they're talking about are going to fall first? Well, let's expand on it. Let's go back to John Solomon and listen to who he thinks is going to fall first. Exactly what I've been saying for a long time.
I think we're going to call, I'm going to give a code name. I know the FBI likes code names, so I'm going to make one up today. I think the President of the United States in the next couple of weeks will announce an operation. I would call the code name Hypersonic Clarity. We're going to get a level of transparency in a release and declassification of documents unparalleled in American history. The president's setting up something that I think will be unbelievable. There will be a speed of lightning, a speed of sound to release of documents. And those documents will help this prosecutorial team in Miami that's doing this hard work to not have to do secret proceedings and secret classified proceedings, because the documents will be unclassified. The public will have transparency. The prosecutors will have. That will make it easier, I think, for the prosecutors to find the bad guys and sort the good guys from the bad guys out without having to have months and years of SEPA proceedings, what are called Secrecy Act hearings, which slow everything down. They're going to ungum the trail, and things are going to move quickly. I do think there will be some accountability. There'll never be enough for what we went through the last 12 years. We were deprived of a fair election because of this meddling in these PSYOP operations. We've been kept from information about vulnerabilities in our election system, which I'm going to have some good stories on that next week. But transparency can speed the prosecutorial accountability project. It's something that the deep state did well to keep Bill Barr from achieving before 2020. I don't think this Justice Department is going to fall for that. I think there'll be a speed of disclosure and a speed of prosecution that we didn't see in past years. The grand conspiracy case will be the ultimate thing. Can they make that? To get a grand conspiracy, Benny, you're going to have to do what prosecutors do when they take down a mob boss, right? Remember, they had to flip Sammy the Bull to get the game.
Okay, he's going over the same talking points as what he said on Bannon. But who does he come out and state? Brennan and Comey are going to go down. And he claims that Brennan could be indicted as early as the end of the month. Now, my prediction is the 24th or the 25th, I think, is what I said here. Or the 24th or the 30th for Brennan. 24th or the 30th for Brennan's indictment. And I think that we're going to have D-class coming in. But he said what? It's the force of an avalanche. Now, isn't that interesting? The force of an avalanche, John Solomon? Do you know the highest classification level of an avalanche? It's called a D5. D5 from like the Q boards. D5 events are used to define the absolute maximum potential of an avalanche path and are often used as a benchmark for historic, extreme, or once-in-a-lifetime occurrences. We are in the midst of this right now, people. It is coming. It is happening. It is about to absolutely rip through. Go back to last night's show. Panic in D.C. There's a reason why there's panic in D.C. What John Solomon is saying there is that someone high up there is going to flip on the House. They're going to flip on the deep state. And guess what? James Comey already did. We know this. I've laid this out over and over. 8647 tweet by James Comey was not a message to try to take down Trump. It was a message to Trump that he is ready and willing to come in and begin talking. This is one of probably the main reasons for the validation of all the documents that they keep on saying are found in burn bags. Did you notice it was after James Comey was in Washington, D.C. that Kash Patel came down? That James Comey was in Washington, D.C., talked to the Secret Service and FBI, and then a week later is when DNI Tulsi Gabbard and Kash Patel came out and said they found a hidden room inside the FBI? It's not a coincidence. James Comey talked. And he's a cooperating witness in the Florida grand jury, in Fort Pierce grand jury, Jason Redding Quinones over there, Judge Eileen Cannon. And so Comey talks, but Brennan, maybe Brennan's going to talk next, or maybe Susan Rice or James Clapper. I think James Clapper absolutely will talk. But the first arrest, the first indictment unseal will set the path forward, right? First indictment unseal. That's going to be, well, it was already James Comey, and that has set the path forward. Brennan's next. And when Brennan goes down, this is going to show the deep state that they are not safe, that now other people are going to be trying to make deals, coming forth and telling all the stories. And so they better get there first, because if they're going to take down Brennan, that means they're going to come after Susan Rice. They're going to come after Clapper. They're going to come after Ray. They're going to come after Rosenstein, McCabe. They're going to come after Obama. They're going to come after Clinton. And what do we have just the other day? The Clinton emails getting reborn again. Oh, it is happening, people. Now, if we go 6 months down the road and there's absolutely zero accountability moving into the midterms, that's going to be a big problem for the Trump administration. And I agree with you all. Oh, yeah. Like, Josh, if we don't have accountability by like July 4th, there's a problem. I agree. But now that we got Pam Bondi out of the way, we got to give it a chance. We got to give it a chance. Representative Anna Paulina Luna accusing Senator Ruben Gallegos of misconduct. Yeah, there you go. Another one is about to bite the dust. Now, this is very telling because you had Boebert yesterday saying that two over the next week. We know McCormick is one of them. Well, who's the other one?
On X, you posted the following, tagging Senate Majority Leader John Thune. It seems like the Senate has its own trash to take out. You, meaning Thune, need to look into the allegations against one of your senators. It's very disturbing. Who are we talking about?
We are talking about an Arizona senator that was very closely tied to Eric Swalwell, and I have since confirmed with Senator John Thune's chief of staff, as well as they're linking us to their ethics that they are investigating, and we are sending all appropriate information directly to them now.
That would be Ruben Gallego, correct?
Correct.
Another one's about to bite the dust. You remember months ago when I was saying that the Epstein stuff is just a tip of the iceberg and don't worry, By the time the summer timeframe comes, you're going to see congressmen and senators resigning. What do we got going on? What do we have going on? Now, we know Nancy Pelosi is not running for re-election. But isn't this interesting? Kevin McCarthy, listen to this.
What'd you know about Swalwell?
Well, let's do a quick history. When I became leader in 2019, I heard that Swalwell, that the FBI had warned Congress and the leaders when Nancy Pelosi appointed him to the Intel Committee a couple of years ago. And you've got to understand how big this is. You only get appointed by the leader. It is the most coveted position in all of Congress. And he gets on in his sophomore year, and the FBI comes knocking to John Boehner and Nancy Pelosi and say, you got a problem here. This person has a relationship with a Chinese spy. Lo and behold, when I find out, because I wouldn't have known this before, I asked for a briefing, and I have Nancy Pelosi there with me. Now the FBI has a number of years and gives us the complete investigation on this. I literally turn to her in that room and say, how could you keep him on this committee knowingly? And Swalwell is her protege. Schiff and Nancy Pelosi protected this person, elevated him, made him like vice chair of the steering committee. He was so protected by Nancy Pelosi, she wouldn't remove him. I'm in the minority. I go to the floor and make a privileged motion based upon the information I have to remove him from the Intel Committee. They have 200 other members they could appoint there. She brings the hammer down. All those Democrats, every single one of them, vote against it to keep him on. 2 years later, I become Speaker. Hakeem Jeffries nominates him to go back on steering. I sit down with Hakeem and say, please, go get the FBI briefing, and let me tell you this, he's not going on the Intel Committee based upon the information I have, and you need to have it as well. Still protected the whole time by Nancy and Adam Schiff. And remember what they did in this governor's race. They hate Katie Porter so much when she started to rise. Swalwell wasn't even in the race. They push him in the race, and they put their whole apparatus around it. The California Teachers Association endorses. The SEIU, the strongest union in California. They don't just endorse, they pour millions of dollars into a super PAC.
It's a mob. It's a fucking criminal organization. Schiff, Pelosi. I mean, is it any surprise that the governor of California is Nancy Pelosi's nephew? Swalwell, Schiff, Pelosi. It's one big freaking mafia family that has controlled the Democrats for a very, very long time. But now their time has come. It is the time of reckoning. Now, why did Nancy Pelosi keep a known Chinese infiltrated congressman who is sleeping with a Chinese spy? Why did she keep him on the Intel Committee? Why? The same reason Dianne Feinstein, who had a Chinese spy as her driver for 30 years, was on the Senate Intel Committee and so forth. Because that was the deal that they had. They were selling out America to the highest bidder, and China was willing to pay. Other countries were willing to pay. This is how they were going to bring about globalism. They were going to sell out the United States of America, rise China up as a global hyperpower while the United States starts to crumble socially, culturally, and politically. And then China goes to war, takes out the United States of America, and it's over, and everything moves into a one world government. And they were all ready for it because they were lining their pockets with money and power to ensure that it happened. Until one man stepped up and changed everything. And that man was President Donald Trump. Now, why is it? So a lot of people are saying that the Democrats took out Swalwell. It wasn't the Democrats that took out Swalwell. This was absolutely 100% a white hat operation that took down Swalwell. I mean, think about it. You just let Swalwell rise to the largest position that he could obtain, running for California governor. Well, Gavin Newsom is under investigation for campaign misuse, embezzlement of federal funds, just running California into the ground. You got Swalwell that's running off the back of the same things that Gavin Newsom said. Nancy Pelosi backing him up, getting all of their cronies to go out there support him. And what do? right after he gets all the nominations, right after the super PACs are created, the millions of dollars flow in, they take down Swalwell because they knew that the millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars that just flowed in for Swalwell's campaign could no longer be ignored. That if they took out Swalwell at that point in time, that all of those donors, all of those organizations would have to come out and retract any endorsement for Swalwell, which begins to take down the entire House because it shows you the level of corruption. Like I said, the last 2 years, it is all about the perception, showing you what is being exposed. It's not necessarily Donald Trump's not going to come out and say, "No, look at California over there. Look what's going on." No. That's not how it goes. See, we Americans, we have to think for ourselves. We have to watch, observe. We have to discover. We have to understand how all things begin to unravel. Why? Because one day, Donald Trump and a lot of the patriots are not going to be there. And it's going to be up to us to preserve the continuity of what we have right now, the power of the people, the ability for the people to go out there and begin to report on this information and ensure that our voices are heard and that people like this are fucking exposed. And so within just a week and a half, you are seeing 4 members of Congress resigning. Ruben Gallego is potentially going to be the 4th one. Go back to the beginning of the Epstein fallout. Right? When Pam Bondi comes out and says, "I have the Epstein files on my desk," and they're horrific. And I said, Pam Bondi watched a video, a CP video, of a U.S. senator being compromised who was with, I'm not going to get into the detail, I've said it in Zooms, with a child doing horrific things. And I said, when that Pam Bondi video came out, that night we played it on the show, I said within the next week or 2, a U.S. senator will be announcing they're no longer running for re-election or will resign. A week later, Dick Durbin comes out and states that he will not be seeking re-election. Dick Durbin, if you didn't know, was one of the strongest proponents during the whole Epstein fiasco to not release the files, to keep it all secret, to bury it. Since that point in time, you've had over 25 members of Congress and Senate that are no longer seeking re-election, 9 of which are Republicans. The Republicans are not seeking re-election because they are running for other offices, governors of their states. Now, this is where it gets interesting because remember, I told you, midsummer is about the time that you're going to see mass resignations in Congress, right? You get through the primaries, you go out there, they're campaigning in their districts, they're meeting with their constituents, and then all of a sudden, shit drops. What drops? Listen to Anna Paulina Luna. Listen to what she says.
What do you want to hear from these women who allegedly recruited and scheduled girls for Epstein?
What I hope to hear from them is they were given plea deals even though they knowingly engaged in trafficking of young girls. Okay, that's what this was. Who were they trafficking them to? Give us names, because as of right now, we haven't received names yet from the victims. We've been able to look at the files. We see that certain people that should be sitting in jail with Ghislaine Maxwell were given plea deals. Okay, so where's the accountability in that? Because in my opinion, if they were doing that, they should be in jail.
Oh, I 100% agree, Anna Paulina Luna. And what does she come out and say? That she wants to push subpoenas. Okay? That she is going to push for subpoenas, congressional subpoenas, for Jeffrey Epstein's former assistants, and will seek the client names. Now, the client names is what is so. By the way, and I got to go back to Pam Bondi and Todd Blanche and why certain names aren't being released, and we see a lot of these are being blacked out and redacted. And the reason is because of plea deals, because of all these, it's protected by the law. But there's other methods to get them out, and we're about to see it. Now, here's where it gets really, really interesting. Because remember, President Trump last year was like, oh, the Epstein nothing burger. Oh, just get rid of that. Oh, we don't need the Epstein files. Oh, Epstein, horrible dude. Why are we even still talking about him? And I told you, this was a psyop. Now you have Melania coming out there just last week and saying, I stand with the survivors. And let's all talk. Let's sit down. Let's ensure this doesn't happen again. What's Trump say?
The First Lady last week called on Congress to further look into and uncover the truth on the Epstein files, the Epstein saga. Do you believe that there should be a public hearing for more of these Epstein survivors?
Well, I'm okay with it. I think we've had a lot of public hearings. I'm okay with it, but I understand that the women didn't want to go under oath. That's what I heard, that the women, the victims or whatever, they refused to go under oath, which was a little surprising. Now, Melania felt strongly about it because she was accused of that I met her through Epstein, but it turned out to be totally false. It was a false story.
So Donald Trump supports them testifying in Congress. Donald Trump supports what Anna Paulina Luna is doing by subpoenaing not the victims, but Jeffrey Epstein's assistants, like Marina, what's her name? Nadia Markova, which, by the way, has not been seen since 2023. Almost like she's maybe in witness protection program. But I'm betting you, when the witnesses' names come out, they're going to be some familiar names. It's not going to be Donald Trump, but it's going to be some familiar names. And that has set off, this is like, the Epstein movement is almost like Me Too Part 2, right? It's Me Too Part 2. Now, people are coming out of the woodworks, are pointing fingers at Eric Swalwell, Ruben Gallegos, Tony Rodriguez, right? All these people. You're going to see a lot more within Congress start to get taken down. Yesterday, we talked about this. The Wiener laptop is now back on the table. They need to look into the servers that are associated with the Comet Ping Pong and investigate why the pizza shop has a members-only website, downloadable videos accessible only through private download keys. So, remember, what did we find out? Bobert, Luna, they're going to subpoena the documentation pertaining to the Wiener laptop. And what did John Solomon say just the other day? That within the Wiener laptop, we realize is that there's Hillary Clinton's emails and that some foreign nation apparently had a copy of all the emails before they were destroyed. Remember what I told you about all this? Going back to the burn bags found in secret skiffs at the FBI building. We've said this since the beginning. We have it all. That any time that these documents are created, it didn't matter what the Biden administration did, what the deep state during the Trump administration did, we already had a copy of it all. We've already had it. But you got to remember, most of the time that when the military got access to these documents, to these files, the Wiener laptop, they were done through methods that were inadmissible in court, right? The military can't spy on America, on a congressman. It's inadmissible in court. You can't use that evidence there. But now, if this is coming up, Trump's in power and control. We have the FBI. Kash Patel goes in there and finds a burn bag. Oh my God, look at the burn bag. Look what we got in here. There's tons of documents. Dump them out and look, they're implicating this person, That's how you get it out. Remember the Q post. How do you introduce evidence legally? This is DNI, Kash Patel. That's the operation. Military intelligence at DNI Tulsi Gabbard, DNI Tulsi Gabbard to Kash Patel and DNI to criminal referrals to the DOJ, which Pam Bondi sat on her ass and sat on her hands and didn't do shit. But now we have something that is actually moving forth. So the Wiener laptop, military intelligence. Remember I told you the story. How did Wiener get taken down in the first place? An anonymous tip was sent to the NYPD of a congressman sending nude shots to a 16-year-old girl. They went in, they arrested Anthony Weiner, they took his laptop, and on that laptop was a file called Life Insurance with documents pertaining to Hillary Clinton, of which 16 NYPD detectives viewed the contents of that folder, and I believe 10 of them have committed suicide since that point in time. This is where the idea of frazzle.zip comes out. Frazzle drip. Now, how did all that happen? You go back to the very beginning. Back in the mid-2000s, members of our military, general officers, high-ranking officials, people in intelligence began realizing that, hey, something's off here, that there are secret, top-secret programs that are somehow getting leaked, that China's getting new advanced technology that we're working on. We haven't even figured out yet. How are they ahead of us? And then you have certain incidences that begin to happen, and those incidences, publicly known, are covered up on the back end. And so the military, they come together, a few general officers, and they say, hey, let's use our resources. Keep this quiet. We're not going to tell anybody. We'll tell one member of Congress in the Armed Forces Services Committee and the Nuclear Regulation Committee and the Senate Intelligence Committee. We'll tell that one person because we trust him. He's been around for 30 years. He's married to the same woman, and nobody's ever accused him of being corrupt. That was Jeff Sessions. And they bring them in and they say, hey, this is what's going on. And he says, okay, let's black budget SAP program fund an intelligence operation done through the National Security Agency to go out there and spy on the deep state to find out who is selling military secret SAP programs to our enemies. And in around 2007, 2008, they began investigating this. And over the course of the next few years, what they begin to discover is that this is much deeper and darker than just the stealing of SAP programs, that there is ritualistic child sacrifice involved, that there is rampant child pedophilia and child sex trafficking involved, that members of our government are involved in illicit criminal activity connected to international criminal organizations. And then they begin fighting back. Brennan and the CIA utilizing CrowdStrike servers as a proxy, spoofing Russian IP addresses, hacking. So then they find their chance. And their chance came after Obama won re-election, stole re-election in 2012, fired 198 general officers, conservative general officers. Well, why did he do that? Because they were the ones that were running the operation that Edward Snowden threw out the window on the military side, spying on the deep state. And so in 2014, they had their chance, and boom, they took it. And they took down Anthony Weiner. They got Anthony Weiner's laptop. They got that, and that gave them a bargaining chip. And then we saw Donald Trump come in. And now, potentially, it's all going to come out. Now, Alpha and I have talked about the missing children. And this is actually really, really important. Under the Obama administration, over 330,000 children went missing coming over the border alone. Now, we've heard Tom Homan talk about how they've found different children. And this is interesting here because you have RFK Jr. talking about missing children here. Listen to this.
Mr. Secretary, the contrast between the Trump administration and the last administration cannot be more striking. On issue after issue, when your predecessor came before this committee, he was defiant and claimed ignorance. In March 2024, I questioned then HHS Secretary Becerra about the Office of Refugee Resettlement's process for finding placements, and shelter for unaccompanied migrant children. Of the more than 100 questions submitted by this committee, my question to him about missing children was one of only 2 questions that your predecessor declined to answer. The Biden administration's open border policies were nothing short of a lethal disaster for our country. Let's be clear about the facts. The Biden DOJ received thousands of allegations of sexual abuse related to unaccompanied minors processed through ORR. Under the Biden administration, ORR permitted individuals with criminal records, no citizenship, and who refused a background check received custody of unaccompanied children. Over the course of 10 months alone, the agency lost contact with nearly 20,000 unaccompanied children. Under the Biden ORR, case managers failed to perform home studies on more than 95% of placements of unaccompanied children. And finally, grand jury testimony in my home state of Florida revealed unaccompanied children were placed in the custody of convicted felons in homes with multiple unknown male occupants. This is unacceptable. Becerra's refusal to even acknowledge the issue when I brought it up to him is disqualifying. That is why I introduced the Stop Gaps Act with Senator Moody that builds up upon the Trump administration's success on securing the border by requiring the ORR to work with state and local authorities to guarantee safe and proper vetting of all individuals and entities before granting them custody of an unaccompanied child. Under the Trump administration, the border is secure, crimes from illegals are being stopped, and there are rigorous standards in place to better protect children. Mr. Secretary, can you speak to the work that your agency is doing to combat our social services being taken advantage of by bad actors and the increased safety of our children?
Yeah, I mean, it was a humanitarian crisis, what my predecessor engineered with the Biden administration. They lost 420.
What my predecessor engineered.
5,000 children. They lost them because they ended verification of sponsors. People were just showing up with fake IDs. There was no genetic testing. There was no income inquiries. There was no ID validation. And we are now in the process of trying to find those children. We've been able to locate 138,000 of them.
138,000 have been located. Wow. They're very, very difficult to find. Many of them, as you say, have been trafficked. They've undergone slavery and sexual abuse. Notice what he said. My predecessor engineered. Rachel Levine, remember? Engineered it. Allowed it to happen. Ensured that there was no accountability of these children coming in, so they could be spread throughout the country in human trafficking rings and whatever else is out there. All right, quick transition. I'm going to read this one on Rumble for you all. Appreciate you guys letting me take this quick little break here. They can cancel your accounts, freeze your cards, decide what you're allowed to buy, say, or support. Big banks and financial institutions have total control, and they use it. That's why financial independence matters more now than ever. Introducing Rumble Wallet, the wallet built for real freedom. With Rumble Wallet, you control your money, not a bank, not a government, not a tech company. Buy digital assets like Tether, Tether Gold, and Bitcoin in one secure place. No permission, no middleman, no cancel button. And when you want to support the creators you actually believe in, you can use the Rumble Wallet app to directly tip content creators securely, instantly, and without interference. This isn't a credit line they can shut off. It's your wallet permanently. Yours to protect your future, yours to protect your family. When the system fails, when the institutions turn on their own people, financial sovereignty is the difference between security and vulnerability. Rumble Wallet isn't about politics. It's about freedom, ownership, and protecting what's yours. So take control today. Download Rumble Wallet now and step away from the big banks for good. True ownership, true protection, true financial freedom. All right, guys. Thank you so much for letting me run that. All right. The United States of America is now the world's top energy superpower by a massive margin. 2.24 million barrels per day, more than Saudi Arabia's 10.9 and Russia's 10.5 combined. Natural gas, 119 billion cubic feet per day, more than Russia's 62 billion, Iran's 27 billion, and China's 23 billion combined. A prolonged closure of the Strait of Hormuz would hurt America's economy, but it would absolutely destroy Europe and Asia's. Europe depends far more heavily on the Strait for its energy demands, yet is foolishly failing to help us. I wonder why. That's why they are weak and unreliable. But the United States is absolutely destroying everybody else. Remember, what did Donald Trump say? Is that Iran shut down the Strait and they just turned around and started heading to the Gulf of America. It's almost like the Gulf of America was renamed because of this. That the Southern oil companies were revitalized months ago because of this. That Venezuelan oil was meant to come in and flow through the southern states of the United States of America to increase the amount of outflow. Almost like this is all planned. And that goes to the point, Joe Kent saying, Donald Trump was influenced by Benjamin Netanyahu. Fuck no, he wasn't. I've been saying that this was going to happen for well over a year, 2 years actually to be exact. That Trump was using Benjamin Netanyahu, Israel, to take down Iran, which is the global kind of proxy for China and the old guard. We've been talking, so this wasn't a surprise to us. And people are like, well, Donald Trump's being manipulated by Benjamin Netanyahu. No. It's the other way around, people. Everything that we've seen over the last year has been preparation for this moment economically. All the various different tariffs, all the dismantling of China's energy infrastructure done through the Belt and Roads Initiative, dismantling it through South America, Latin America, through Northern Africa, through the Middle East. The the positioning of the United States of America against Europe, Russia and the proxy of Ukraine being utilized against Europe, Russia cutting off Russia being cut off from all oil sales, those oil sales going to Europe, buying $380 billion worth of oil from the United States of America, negotiated through Donald Trump in a deal. This was all pre-planned. And so I don't know how people can say that, well, Donald Trump was influenced by Benjamin Netanyahu to go to war. Like Benjamin Netanyahu went in there to the Situation Room and said, see, chart says Iran bad nukes. We got to go in. And Donald Trump looks at Pete Hegseth and Dan Kane and goes, we're going to war. Move the Navy in now. Start bombing. It doesn't fucking work like that. Anybody who thinks otherwise doesn't know what they're talking about. Joe Kent was not in the intelligence briefings. He wasn't in the mission briefings. He wasn't part of the planning of any of these events. J.D. Vance was. J.D. Vance still has a job, and J.D. Vance supports everything that Donald Trump is doing. Dan Kane was. Dan Kane still has a job. He's still sticking right by Donald Trump's side, and he's right alongside Donald Trump in the support of all this. Joe Kent wasn't. DNI Tulsi Gabbard was part of the planning. Still by Donald Trump's side. Still right there, kicking along. What you have to begin to understand, and maybe, I don't know, I think Tucker's a good guy. I think that some of these people are really good people, but I think Tucker has it wrong. But I think that Tucker is doing something important. He is pointing out the influence of the Netanyahu regime within Washington, D.C., which is something that we have to pay attention to. But he should equally be pointing out Chinese influence in Washington, D.C., Qatari influence in Washington, D.C., Saudi influence in Washington, D.C., and European influence in Washington, D.C., because they have equal stance. Much so is reduced significantly since President Trump has been in. But it depends on which administration is in. Donald Trump today. I hope Hezbollah acts nicely and well during this important period of time. It'll be a great moment for them if they do. No more killing. Must finally have peace. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Donald J. Trump. Do you understand what he's talking about there? He's talking about the Israeli-Lebanon peace deal. For 34 years, the leaders of Israel and Lebanon have not even talked at the same table. And today marked history to where they came together and actually talked and agreed on a 10-day ceasefire. Now, you got to understand, Israel is not at war with Lebanon. The country of Lebanon is not at war with Israel. But the country of Lebanon saying, Israel, stop fucking bombing us. Because Hezbollah has a massive infiltration within Lebanon. Lebanon, even 2 weeks ago, began to dismantle a lot of the Hezbollah infrastructure since the United States has been bombing the shit out of Iran. Hezbollah is trained by the IRGC, the Revolutionary Guard. Now, what Donald Trump is signifying is that if we can get peace between Lebanon and Israel, and we can get peace between Iran and the United States and Israel, now we have a new infrastructure of the Abraham Accords. Those were the final pieces that begin to put everything together and bring about long, stabilized peace within the Middle East. And this was his plan. This was what it was all about. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth today sent a direct message to Iran, to IRGC leadership. We're watching you. Our capabilities are not the same, our militaries and yours. Remember, this is not a fair fight. We know what military assets you are moving and where you are moving them to. You are digging out, which is exactly what you're doing, digging out of bombed out and devastated facilities, and we are only getting stronger. We are locked and loaded on your critical dual-use infrastructure, on your remaining power generation, and on your energy infrastructure. We'd rather not do it, but we are ready to go at command of our president if he pushes the button. Now, kind of interesting, because actually what you have here is you have two governments that are operating within Iran. And this is something that I've talked about a lot, is that since Trump has gone into Iran, what you're actually getting out of this is you have IRGC hardliners, and then you have the Iranian civilian component of the government. Remember, out of all the bombs dropped on all the different leaders and members of Iran, none have been dropped on the civilian government. Good statistic to keep in mind. Donald Trump, they had the meeting last weekend with J.D. Vance in Islamabad. They went into that meeting not expecting to get a deal. It wasn't about getting a deal. It was about who was in power and control in Iran. What did you get? You got the civilian counterparts of the government that came in for the first level of negotiations. They all sat down. And then the day later, when J.D. Vance showed up, what you had is IRGC hardliners flying in. And that's when J.D. Vance said, goodbye, we're gone. Because they knew Iran was never going to agree to their terms. And we knew Iran was not going to agree to our terms. And the blockade was imminent. This is why we had the naval power in the region in the first place. It was warned multiple times, but it was imminent. And we know that Iran's economy cannot sustain this longer than another week, which is a big problem for them. But what happened today? Donald Trump came out and said, hey, I've talked to Iran. And they've agreed to hand over their enriched uranium supply to the United States of America. Now, we haven't had confirmation of this on the Iranian counterparts, but this is what Donald Trump's saying. And you know what? I take the man at his word. I take the man at his word when he tells me that, hey, Iran has agreed to hand over their uranium. And you know what he's talking about? He's talking about the civilian government and said, yeah, we'll give up nuclear energy, no problem, as long as you help us and sustain us. And that's the key point, is the United States doesn't want to go in there and destroy Iran. The United States wants to lend a helping hand down and say, let us help you become modernized, like we did with Qatar and UAE and Saudi Arabia and all these other countries. Become a functioning member of society. Stop being controlled by China and Britain. He's liberating a country from a form of theocratic slavery that is induced and funded by a global agenda that seeks to rule over the world through an oligarchical form of government. Listen to what he says here.
The thing right now is to make sure Iran can never have a nuclear weapon.
Would you ever go to Pakistan to seal the deal yourself?
I would go to Pakistan, yeah. Pakistan has been great. They've been so good. Islamabad, I might go. Yeah, I might go. If the deal is signed in Islamabad, I might go. The field marshal has been great. The prime minister has been really great in Pakistan. So I might go. They want me.
Donald Trump going to head to Pakistan, to Islamabad, to sign the deal with Iran? That's fucking historic. Now, I've always talked about how Trump is working with Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin. I don't want to say he's working with Russia. I don't want to say he's working with China, but he's working with Xi Jinping and he's working with Vladimir Putin. Next month, Donald Trump is going to go out there and he's going to meet with Xi Jinping. And they got a lot to talk about because a lot has happened. Now, one of the things that people noticed is that Iran's two biggest allies are Russia and China. Remember, Iran was being brought into BRICS. Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. Iran was being brought into it. China had invested over $80 billion in infrastructure in Iran alone. Russia had invested over $20 billion of infrastructure in Iran. This is their greatest. They were doing military drills a week before with China and Russia, naval drills. Now they're unable to do naval drills because they don't have any ships because they're all at the bottom of the fucking ocean. But when Donald Trump started dropping bombs on Iran, Russia did nothing. China did nothing. Actually, Russia did do things. Right after the Alaska summit, Russia took millions of barrels of gas and put it out to sea with no buyers or no contracts. The moment that Donald Trump invaded Iran and the Straits of Hormuz got closed down, Scott Bessent, Secretary of Treasury, reduced the sanctions on Russia to allow them to release ocean-borne oil, which just happened to be all that oil from right after the Alaska summit. Almost like Vladimir Putin knew that this was going to happen. Hence why he didn't militarily help Iran. Not only that, is Russia also gave Iran over 55 different intelligence targets and logistical targets throughout the Middle East to strike, of which Iran struck the UK and Chinese infrastructure in Iraq. They struck the UK oil infrastructure in Qatar in the North Mars field. That's kind of interesting. And immediately after that is when Ukraine started striking Russian oil infrastructure. It's almost like we're in an energy war. And only a few different people were telling you this. People are beginning to catch on, but we've been saying it for a while. Now, here's the interesting thing. I've talked about the various different coup attempts in China against Xi Jinping. Well, America was bombing Iran. China was bombing itself. The Chinese People's Liberation Army is in the middle of the largest military purge in modern history. Over 100 senior generals and lieutenant generals have been arrested or have vanished since late 2023. Both recent defense ministers erased. The rocket force, which controls China's nuclear missiles, almost entirely replaced. The Central Military Commission gutted to the point that only Xi and one other general remained from the original lineup. The official story is anti-corruption. The real story appears to be a failed power grab. Xi reportedly tried to consolidate direct tactical control over missile launches and theater operations, bypassing traditional military command structures. Senior general, including Zhao Zhezhuai, one of Xi's closest military allies, pushed back. The pushback became a purge. Now the PLA is being run by acting commanders who are too afraid to make decisions without explicit orders from above. The matter enormously for the war we just covered. China played a quiet role in the Iran ceasefire, mediating the final breakthrough. We talked about that. Beijing now has diplomatic leverage with Trump heading into May's summit. Behind the diplomatic theater is military might be temporarily broken. Now, we've talked about this, is that the CCP's elders, okay, this is Jintao and all these other guys, were utilizing various different power factions within the PLA to go against Xi Jinping. Back in 2022, Xi Jinping disappeared for a period of 2 weeks. The news media came out and mainstream media was reporting that there was a coup in China and that Xi Jinping had been replaced. And then all of a sudden, Xi Jinping shows up. This came weeks after an arrested military general is seen, and you hear gunfire at a military airport and helicopter fire and all this stuff. In other words, they were trying to coup Xi Jinping, and he survived, and his allies became stronger. This consolidated into the annual CCP meeting, Chinese Communist Party meeting, to where Jintao was taken away. And Xi just looked at him with a stern face. This has not ceased since then. You got to remember, their government is much larger than ours. I think they have like 2,300 senators. So China, it has a deep state as well. And Xi Jinping is purging them as we speak. Now, Cuba just came out and said they're getting ready for a possible U.S. attack. I got some news for Cuba. There is no getting ready for a possible U.S. attack. I don't know if they got the memo from Iran or Venezuela, but you don't prepare for the United States of America to invade your small little fucking island. What you do is you call up the Secretary of State over the United States of America and say, we surrender, so no loss of life occurs. What do you want us to do? But Cuba is next, and I think that you're going to see the operation in Cuba happen over probably the course of the next 3 weeks. Donald Trump today says, Italy wasn't there for us. We won't be there for them. Now you're seeing a complete divergence away from the majority of various different European countries, including NATO, which we talked about and said Trump was going to leave NATO. That's actually happening right now. We have the UK. King Charles is actually supposed to be joining Trump and Melania in Washington, D.C., but I don't know what they're going to talk about. Who knows? But I can tell you that Keir Starmer is not very happy with Donald Trump, and Donald Trump is basically dismantled their whole intelligence apparatus of global energy control that they had set up for the last 100 years that they were utilizing as the mechanism to fund the New World Order. That's been completely dissolved. Other various different European nations, Germany is now coming out and creating a European NATO that is going to build back up military power within Europe. And I said, the last time Germany tried to build up military power in Europe, we had World War II. So that's kind of concerning, but I'm not worried about it because I think that there's more things that are going to unravel over the course of the next few months. Another UFO-linked scientist who warned my life is in danger, found dead at 34, this was a few years ago, becomes the 11th mysterious case. Amy Eskridge was just 34 years old when she allegedly died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound to the head in Huntsville, Alabama on June 11, 2022. However, neither the police nor the medical examiner have publicly released any details of the investigation ever taking place. Now, her family has came out and said, look, be respectful. We don't want to talk about this. Her dad is a senior NASA scientist, worked for the Jet Propulsion Laboratories. His research is on various different types of propulsion, electromagnetic propulsion, and gravitational propulsion. Him and his daughter, Amy Eskridge, who's a polymath, PhD in physics, PhD in biotech, they created a company called Exotic Technology Incorporated, I think it was, if I remember correctly. And Amy had a breakthrough paper on gravity, that they had achieved anti-gravity or understood what gravity actually was, an asymmetric, basically asymmetric distortion of field potential, and that they were going to release it to the world in 2 weeks. And then the next day she dies. And so now she's been added to this list. Now, Donald Trump was asked about this today. And he says that, well, we are investigating it, and I think you will know something about this within the next few weeks. So I think that that's really good. And he does agree that it's a matter of national security and that the White House is looking into this. Now, this was interesting. I saw this headline today. Astronomers say Earth is currently flying through a debris field from a hidden asteroid that is breaking apart near the sun. Do you remember March and all the big fireballs shooting down to the sky? What did I say we were going through? Do you remember what I said we were going through? I said, looks like we're going through a debris field of something that was blowing up. Now, astronomers are saying, well, it was an asteroid that got too close to the sun and it broke up. Well, wouldn't the sun's gravitational field pull it into the sun? Just saying. My thoughts? 3i Atlas at aphelion, when it came its closest contact in the United States of the Earth, released probes and then went off towards Jupiter. And that our Space Force detected these probes. And with something like the X-37B, went out into space and saw these probes coming in and went, ba-boom, ba-boom, and blew them to shit. And then in March, because if you look at the time frame from December 13th, December 19th, when 3i Atlas was at its closest approach to Earth, to beginning of March, that's the exact time frame what it took at the velocity that those objects were traveling for them to land on Earth if we went through the debris field. Makes sense to me. All right. Well, shit, this was a pretty good show. We got, just wait, there's more. And what do I mean there's more? OG show is coming up next, myself and Alpha. That will be on this channel. You don't have to go to Alpha's channel. You can watch it right here on this channel. And so I got to set it up, though, so I don't have it set up yet. So that will be set up here relatively soon. And probably give me about 10 minutes, and that show will be set up so you can go jump into that one. And then after the OG show, I'll be joining George Norrie on Coast to Coast AM later tonight. So I hope to see you guys all there. Real quick, while we still got your attention, I want to do Kalshi. Yeah, we'll do this one. And I like Kalshi better than Polymarket. Have you ever watched the news or a big game and thought, I know how this is going to play out? Instead of just tweeting about it, you can actually put those predictions to work with Kalshi. Kalshi is a federally regulated exchange where you trade on real-world events, not stocks. Think questions like, will inflation be higher next month? Will the Fed cut rates, or will your team make the playoffs? Each market is a simple yes or no contract priced between 1 and 99 cents. And if you're right, it settles at $1. That price is basically the crowd's probability of something happening. So if yes is a trading at 75 cents, the market is saying there's about a 75% chance it happens. You can use it to hedge, to speculate, or to just put some skin in the game on what you already follow every day. And right now, they have got a special offer. Trade $10, get $10. Just go to kalshi.com/rumble. That's KALSHI.com/rumble. Deposit and place your first $10 in trades, and Kalshi will give you an extra $10 to use on the platform. So if you got to take, don't just post it, trade it. Go to Kalshi.com/rumble and get started today. That's KALSHI.com/rumble. All right. Thanks for letting me do that, guys. All right. So Josh is an alien. Yeah, maybe. Maybe I'm not an alien. Maybe you're the alien, dude. Maybe you're the alien, not me. You ever thought about that? Maybe I'm just the only human here. Maybe there's not many humans left on this planet and everybody else are just aliens. All right, guys. I will see you in about 45 minutes on Overwatching the Guardian. We'll see you then. Much love, respect. God bless. Take care. Have a great night. See you.
There was a time when our children stood tall, hand on their hearts, one voice for all. There was a time when honor had weight, when the flag was a symbol, not a debate. There was a time when our history was known, with pride in the rules that made us our own. There was a time, respect for the brave, for those who bled, for the lives they gave. Now the homeland burns in silent war. Truth is twisted, we can't ignore. Still calls, we the people will not fall. There was a time, but the time isn't near. The great awakening is here. Dark to light, veil under, patriots rise. We are one, land of the free, home of the brave. Children of freedom, stand for the light. There was a time when truth was clear, when the media served, not ruled by fear. There was a time when leaders stood fast, guarding the people, defending the past. Now corruption wears a crown, lies are fed to tear us down. But Q said watch, and Q said see. The silent war will set us free. From the front lines, soldiers stare, wondering if we're still there. Their blood, their hope, their sacrifice will not be sold for a life's prize. There was a time, but the time isn't near. The great awakening is here. Dark to light, the veil undone, patriots rise. We are one. Children of freedom, stand for the light.
Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. It must be fought for, protected, and handed on. Or we will spend our sunset years telling our children what it was once like in the United States where men were free.
There was a time, the time is near. The great awakening is here. Dark to light, veil
I don't have to tell you things are bad. Everybody knows things are bad. The air is unfit to breathe, and our food is unfit to eat. I don't know what to do about the depression and the inflation. I want you to get mad.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubblegum.
People should not be afraid of their governments. Governments should be afraid of their people.
The more you fuck around, the more you're going to find out.
These people are still a part of that system, and that makes them our enemy.
We accept the reality of the world with which we're presented. It's as simple as that.
I want you to get up right now and go to the window, open it, and stick your head out and yell, I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore!